Hello, today we're going to take what we did last time and render it out to achieve this result. So let's jump into Houdini. So this is where we left off last time when we went into SOPs. And I took this SOP and renamed it to my SOP to make it more easy to see what we are doing. So this time we are going to learn about ROPs. So to do this, press tab and type ROP, and this will show you the ROP network. And press enter and then drop this new node. And I will call this my ROP. And then as before, press the I key to go inside. And next I'm going to add an OpenGL renderer. So press tab and type OpenGL and then press enter. And to show the parameters, press P. And here we can set up this renderer. So first we need a camera. So let's create a camera first. So press U to go up, and here in the viewport where it says no camera, select new camera. Okay, so now we have a camera. So let's go back inside my ROP. So press press I for inside and P to open the parameters. And here we have already this camera selected. And next we need to select what to render. So just clear these marks here and select force objects and type /obj/ and here you can select my SOP. That's what we created last time without the final slash. Okay. So next we want to look at the file we're going to render. So go to the output tab. And here under output image, select sequence of EXR files. And here I have set up already a variable called data. And this is where I store my data files. And you can define your own variables under edit, aliases and variables. And this will then be in the EXR folder, and then HIPNAME is the name of this Houdini file, and then slash, and then it says $OS, that means operator string. And that is the name of the node, in other words, OpenGL1. And if you press the middle mouse button on this output image, you can see what this will expand to. So this will be the file name we are going to write. And this is the frame number. And let's also change the compression to DreamWorks Animation A. That is a little bit smaller so we don't fill up our disk. And we can leave this as default. And next we need the frame range to be render frame range. And here I will set this to 1 to 48. So this is a 2-second animation. And next, let's see, this should be fine as is. Okay. So this node will now render out this animation as a sequence of EXR files. And we also want to add this glow that you saw. So to do this, so this glow effect, And for this I'm going to use Nuke. So let's jump into Nuke and see how this is done. So I've created a small Nuke comp here that will read in the EXR sequence that we are going to render from Houdini, and then apply a glow node, a grade node and a glow node, and then it will write out this as a new EXR sequence. So back into Houdini. So after we have written out our EXR files, we also want to apply this comp automatically, so we don't have to do it manually each time. So we will add another node here by pressing Tab and typing shell. And with this node we can run any shell command. So let's connect this, and this means it will first render our particles using OpenGL, and then when finished it will run this shell command. So here I'm going to type, so press P to open the parameters and then type your shell command. And I also defined a variable here called Nuke under this edit aliases and variables, and this is the full command path to my Nuke installation. And this was explained in another Nuke lesson where we used an alias to create the Nuke command. And next, the parameter is /x that will execute a Nuke script. And next, the file, and that is $hip, that is in the same folder as this Houdini file. And then I called this Houdini 2.nk. So this is this Nuke script. So now it will run the OpenGL, and then it will run this shell command. And this shell command is only run once, so render current frame. If you want to render separate frames, then we can render frame branch, and here type $n, for example, frame $n, that will select the frame n. But now we will just execute the full Nuke script like this. Okay, so now this is all set up. So let's go up again and then select my ROP and press P, and then press this render button. And now we can see it is doing all the things we told it to do. And here we have the progress. So now it is running shell 1, that is the Nuke script. And you can see also here it says Nuke. So there it goes. Now it finished rendering the Nuke. So the result is this comp saved to a file, to a sequence of EXR files. And you achieved this result. I hope this was helpful, and see you next time. Over and out.